In 2014, a 92-year-old man named Ronald Read passed away in Brattleboro, Vermont. He had worked as a gas station attendant and then a department store janitor his entire life. When his estate was settled, his family and his town were stunned. This quiet, frugal man had left behind almost $8 million, and nobody, not even the people closest to him, had any idea. Let that sink in. A man who pumped gas for 25 years and swept floors at JCPenney for another 17, earning a modest hourly wage his whole life, quietly built a fortune of nearly $8 million. He left $4.8 million to his local hospital and $1.2 million to the town library. The largest gifts either had ever received. He did it with no high salary, no inheritance, and no special education. Just 3 simple habits. First, who he actually was. Ronald Read grew up poor on a Vermont farm. He was the first in his family to graduate high school, walking or hitchhiking miles to get there. He served as a military policeman in World War II. He came home, pumped gas and fixed cars for about 25 years, then worked part-time as a janitor at JCPenney for 17 more. By every outward sign, he was an ordinary working man living an ordinary working life. Here's how he hid it so well. He wasn't hiding it at all. He just genuinely lived below his means. He drove a used Toyota Yaris. He famously held his worn flannel jacket together with a safety pin rather than replace it. When he visited his lawyer, he parked in the spots far away that didn't have meters to save a few coins. He cut his own firewood well into his 90s. People who knew him assumed he was barely getting by. He wasn't frugal to look rich. He was frugal because that's simply who he was. So how did he actually build $8 million? 3 simple techniques, none of them complicated. 1. He spent far less than he earned and invested the difference every single year, no matter how small. 2. He bought shares of boring, high-quality companies that paid dividends. Procter & Gamble, Johnson & Johnson, JP Morgan, Smuckers, household names that send shareholders cash. 3. He reinvested every dividend to buy more shares, and then he held, for decades, through every crash, every recession, every panic. He never sold. When he died, he owned over 95 different companies. This is the part most people miss. Watch how wealth like this actually builds over a lifetime. For decades, the growth looks slow, almost discouraging. By middle age, a modest but steady investor might have a few $100,000. But because Ronald Read started early and never stopped, the compounding had over 60 years to work. And in the final stretch, it goes vertical. Most of his $8 million was created in the last 20 years of his life. Not because he invested more, but because he'd given it time. This curve is the whole secret. So what can you actually copy from a Vermont janitor? 4 things. 1. Your income is not your wealth. What you keep and invest is. Read proved a modest paycheck can build millions. 2. Boring wins. He didn't chase hot stocks or time the market. He bought quality and held. 3. Time is the real engine. He had over 60 years. The earlier you start, the less you need to save. And 4. Reinvest everything. Every dividend he received bought more shares, which paid more dividends. That's the snowball that built the fortune. Ronald Read wasn't a genius, a banker, or a lottery winner. He was a janitor who understood 4 simple ideas and had the patience to let them work for a lifetime. You don't need a high salary to build real wealth. You need to spend less than you earn, invest in quality, reinvest your gains, and give it time. The most powerful force in finance isn't being rich, it's being patient.